Alright guys, today we are going to be reacting to She Makes the Uglier Guy Wait But Sleep with Chad and Tyrone. Right away, let's jump in.
And bring up that comes up frequently is the whole waiting for thing, and like this scenario right here is actually like precisely why it irks me so much, where there's like one standard, there's a standard, oh, I want to wait 3 months, I want to wait until marriage, and then like either concurrently or immediately after, they'll immediately just have sex with a guy like super quickly.
Well, I think the thing that irks you so much about it is it's the idea of the faux virtue. So the idea is, I didn't do this with this guy because I wanted to be virtuous, right? But then I just did it right away with the next guy. And so it's like, well, it doesn't seem like you're very consistent then with your virtuosity, right? And so, of course, from the guy's perspective, he's going to feel like, that's pretty horrible that you led me on for 2 years and kind of thought that I was lesser than the guy that you were willing to hook up with within the first night or a week or whatever. I've always understood that argument. I always thought that it was a very compelling one. Whether or not I spiritually agree with it, it's still a very compelling argument.
What do you think about this one, Andrew? So maybe we'll get back to the relationship status here in just a moment. But ladies, how would you feel? So you've been dating a guy for 2 years, and this is the guy you want to get married to. You want to marry him, you really like him, and he's like, I need longer. We've only been dating for 2 years. I really need longer before I'm ready for that sort of commitment. Inevitably, you guys end up breaking up. 3 months after the breakup, he immediately starts dating a new girl. They've only been dating for 2 months. He proposed to her after 2 months. How would you feel about that?
You're just not the person for him.
Right, but he was saying the whole time, he was saying, like, I should have made this clear. He's been saying the whole time, there's no way I could ever like be ready to marry a girl without knowing her for like 3 years. And he says that. I would never consider marrying a girl unless I dated her for 3 years and we lived together, did all this stuff, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, that happens all the time. I would just consider I was just the placeholder girl. I'm not going to be happy about it, but it is what it is.
And perhaps the better framing would be, actually,
Also, like, maybe she offered something he didn't see in me in those 3 months.
Right. I would feel like she has something that I didn't have to give to him. And so, and plus I would try to feel like I took somewhat responsibility for him wanting to marry someone, because I trained him to be who he is today. So I'd be like, that's all me.
It would make you feel pretty bad, right?
Yes. No, it would not feel good.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Our ego would be hurt.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why that scene, and why guys like Brian see that as a red flag. So there's kind of the two ways to look at this. The one way to look at it is, well, wait a second. If you want a woman with a low body count, then you probably shouldn't be sleeping with women because you add to their body count, right? This makes sense. It's coherent. It's logical. But on the other hand, how would it make you feel to know that you were trying to do everything in the most virtuous way possible, and you were dating a woman, and she said, "Listen, I want to abstain due to virtue as well, and wait until marriage," and then you guys broke up maybe, let's say, after 9 months, and then she slept with the next guy on the very first date. Wouldn't that make you feel like total shit? I mean, from the man's perspective, wouldn't it make him just feel like they did everything right, and they got screwed over for doing everything correctly?
I would feel like it was meant to be then, because then it wasn't a match.
This is what happened. They don't see when you flip it on them. Oh, I feel bad. I feel like I was not enough. But when they do it, they cannot recognize the same feeling. I wonder why.
Yeah. People are removed from your life for a reason, and I would just be thankful that happened.
I'm not even making the dispute that couldn't be true, right? All I'm asking is, wouldn't it make you feel like shit?
Of course.
Yes,
yeah,
but
that's why it's seen as a red flag. Is like, why would I want to make all of this investment in a woman who then comes to me and says, I want to have a virtuous relationship with you, so I'm abstaining. And then I found out in her last relationship, she slept with him the first night.
As a man,
Right?
why are you going into like women's past relationships like that though? I feel like if you're dating someone, like the past shouldn't matter.
Well, we'll get
Oh,
here.
it shouldn't? So let me ask you a question, just a quick question. If a man has a history of domestic, does his past matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go. See, they cannot even think. They're just full of just modern witches verbiage. That's what it is. They really haven't thought about a lot of these stuff, man.
Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
But I'm saying like I wouldn't go digging into his like ex relationships. Like, oh, when did
No,
you
you
do
wouldn't.
this or
You
that?
would-
For your
wait, I'm sorry.
girlfriend?
I'm sorry.
wanna
If
know if
you
my
if you were
man
told by a
has-
friend of yours, if you were told by a friend of yours that a man you were dating had a history of domestic, you wouldn't go digging, really?
I actually got told a lot about my current boyfriend. Like people came up to me and were telling me things about him when we went out, and from seeing his character, like I knew that that was just bullshit.
Okay, you didn't go poking around though.
I didn't need to because I didn't care about what was happening previously.
What
as
if you
long
were
as-
told that he had a history of kid diddling? Would you go poking around then, since you have a
What?
daughter at home?
Of what?
Kid did.
If you
I
were
would
told he
use
had a
my
history.
I would use my
of-
discernment on that. Like how
What do you mean you'd use your discernment? If you were told you have a daughter at home, if you were told that
exactly,
somebody
and
had
I
a
would use my
history,
discernment on how he acts. If someone's eager to obviously meet my daughter, like, oh yeah, like bring me around your kid, then that's weird. I use my discernment on. That's why
you
he's
do.
the first
wait,
person
your
that ever met my
discernment. What are you
daughter.
do you think that they're just going to announce themselves and all their creepy vibes are just going to come out at once?
But
No.
I feel like you can tell when men are like, you know, like, oh, why don't you bring me? Like I've dated people that wanted to meet my daughter like very early on. I was like, that's weird. Like, why do you want to hang out with a 5-year-old?
Okay, well, let me just ask this very simply then. Would you allow somebody who had ever diddled a kid around your daughter?
Obviously not.
Well, then I guess their history matters, doesn't it?
There we go.
Well, I think as
This the hero syndrome. She just saved her. She just saved that. We're gonna be here arguing for the next 2 hours because this lady right here wanted to save her. Look at her. Look at her. She got owned, but William Penny saved her.
men and women nowadays, we need to do our due diligence and we need to do our homework when we date someone. And you have to draw the line as to what's too much homework and, you know, stay within that boundaries of just doing your research on that individual just to protect yourself too. And if you have kids, you got to protect them as well. So I'm all about like doing research on someone, but not to let it go too far where it's gonna just totally steer you in the right direction.
Here,
'cause-
well,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So, and I think that this is a more charitable way to view things, right? You can, if you nitpick anybody, you can always find something that you're going to be upset with or mad about or some decision that they made that could potentially make a red flag. And if you obsess over it, I agree with you. I think that that's probably way outside of the gate. However, you have to admit that some things, which would be red flags, have got to have different priorities, right? So domestic violence, for instance, that's going to be a high priority. Body count could be a high priority. There's going to be things which are going to be bigger red flags than other things, right? Like
Right.
I think that Brian having OCD, for instance, likely isn't going to be as big of a red flag as if Brian hypothetically his last girlfriend, right? Which one of those would you say is the bigger red flag?
It depends on the person. Some people might not want to deal
depends
with
on the
someone.
person.
Depending on the person. There's such a cope statement. That's a cope statement. I think I remember what was the debate that Andrew was that I think the moderator eliminate the word depend. If you say depend, you get like a timeout for 5 minutes, I think it was. But it makes sense when you say depend, you just ruin the entire conversation. You never get anywhere.
Might not
Really?
want to deal with someone having OCD.
I think there's
Yeah,
deal
I
breakers
get
and
it,
then
but-
there's
but
things
okay,
that you
okay.
can kind of deal
So-
with.
So I'll grant to you that there could be one human being or two or three or 20 human beings who would qualify that OCD would make them more uncomfortable than a man who had a history of domestic. Fine. Do you think that most people that would be a priority for them? That OCD would in some way trump a history of domestic violence? Of course not. That's absurd, right? That's absurd. So that's why I'm saying I think that there should be a prioritization of what these red flags are. But I agree with you in spirit that if you just go crazy trying to dig into every little aspect of any individual, you're going to find something.
Right.
It's just the
Everyone's
way it
got
is.
dirt
So
on them.
I do. I'm
There
gonna.
you go with the hero syndrome. They like to do that. The sisterhood like to defend itself. I think because in some way or form they identify with the next female, and they have the same guilt, so they have to protect. In their mind, is like they protecting the other woman close to them. Protecting them means that they're protecting themselves. So they're trying to convince themselves if they protect the other female and she looks good, that means that she looks good as well. And she don't have to feel the guilt. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one.